Whoever teaches learns in the act of teaching, and whoever learns teaches in the act of learning. Rooted from Paulo Freire, 1996. The novel coronavirus or COVID-19 broke out at the end of 2019 and has spread out quickly throughout the world. This major public health emergency led to a dramatic change all over the world, affecting all aspects of social life, including education. In order to stop the spread of COVID-19 to campus and ensuring the safety and health of teachers and students, most of the countries have changed their teaching methods from face-to-face to online learning. Despite the overwhelming consequences of the pandemic, this global crisis has also been an extraordinary time for learning. We are all learning how adaptable and resilient educational systems, policymakers, teachers, students, and families can be. Our schools are full of children with amazing potential. As our schools become more diverse than ever before, we depend on our teachers to deliver creative and rigorous lessons that reach all students. But getting kids excited about learning, especially when they all have different strengths and needs, is hard work. And too often we ask teachers to do it all on their own. Research shows that providing teachers with high-quality instructional materials to support their teaching is an effective strategy for increasing student learning. When teachers have great instructional materials, they can focus their time, their energy, and creativity on meeting the diverse needs of students and helping them all learn and grow. Honestly, I was not able to conduct this speech in front of you all without the support and help of my friends who are now teachers with licensed title. Curriculum implementation is the main process to achieve the curriculum objectives. Same thing as being engaged in Central Mindanao University. First, the stimulating interest and motivation. A good course should first attract students' attention. So the course should stimulate students' interests and motivation firstly. Teachers should choose materials, contents, and stories that students are interested in as warming up. The motivation was found positively relating to students' academic performance and creativity. In addition to holding different kinds of goals with consequent differences in academic motivation, students show obvious differences in levels of interest in the topics and tasks of the classroom. Suppose that two high school classmates, Alexis and Renante, both are taking chemistry and specifically learning how to balance chemical equations. Alexis finds the material boring and has to force herself to study it. As a result, she spends only the time needed to learn the basic material and to complete the assignments at a basic level. Renante, on the other hand, enjoys the challenges of balancing chemical equations. He thinks of the tasks as an intriguing puzzle. He not only solves each of them, but also compares the problems to each other as he goes through them. Alexis' learning is based on effort compared to Renante's, whose learning is based more fully on interests. As the example implies, when students learn from interests, they tend to devote more attention to the topic than if they learn from effort. The finding is not surprising since interest is another aspect of intrinsic motivation, energy or drive that comes from within. A distinction between effort and interest is often artificial. However, because the two motives often get blended or combined in students' personal experiences. Most of us can remember times when we worked at a skill that we enjoyed and found interesting, but that also required effort to learn. The challenge for teachers is therefore to draw on and encourage students' interest as much as possible, and thus keep the required effort within reasonable bounds neither too hard nor too easy. The second one will be the cognitive conflict. It is used to describe a situation that students feel confused or puzzled, especially when that is inconsistent with their previous experience or understanding. Rooted in Piaget's notion of disequilibrium, which drives cognitive effort to resolve discrepancies, cognitive conflict was found helpful in improving students' motivation and arousing their curiosity about the course contents. The third one will be the knowledge construction. It includes cognitive construction and social construction. The cognitive construction is a process in which the learners actively construct their internal mental representations, which are realized through the interaction of old and, of course, to the new experiences. Social construction is based on Vygotsky's viewpoint that social interaction is essential to children's cognitive development. Social construction here involves teacher-student interactions and student-student interactions. Teachers should design courses with discussion sessions in which students could argue and share their views with other students. In this process, knowledge is socially constructed and specific ways of thinking are mutually reinforced. As previous research found, compared to traditional instruction, courses that involve collaborative experimentation and interactions, or storytelling, hands-on experiments, and drama could improve preschoolers' thinking ability. Also, cooperative learning and peer learning partnership could increase students' motivation. Knowledge construction can happen when students do more than reproduce what they have learned. They go beyond knowledge reproduction to generate ideas and understandings that are new to them. The skills of knowledge constructions are often considered as a critical thinking. Activities that require knowledge construction ask students to interpret, to analyze, to synthesize, and evaluate informations or ideas. Interpretation. It means about drawing inferences beyond the literal meaning. For example, the students might read a description of a historical period and infer why people who lived then behaved the way they did. The analysis. It is identifying the parts of a whole and their relationships to each other. Like, for example, the students might investigate local environmental factors to determine which are most likely to affect migrating birds. Synthesis. It is the identifying the relationships between two or more ideas, like students might be required to compare and to contrast perspectives from multiple sources. The evaluation period. It means judging the quality, credibility, or the importance of data, ideas, or events. Like, for example, the students might read different accounts of an historical event and determine which ones they find most credible among others. If an activity asks students to practice a procedure they already know, or if the activity gives students a set of steps to follow, the activity does not require knowledge construction. To determine whether students already know a certain procedure, consider what is typically expected of students of their age. If an activity asks students to devise a procedure themselves, the activity does not require knowledge construction. It is important to note that not all student activities are commonly described as research involve knowledge construction. If students are asked to look up information and write a paper that simply describes what they found, students are reproducing knowledge, but they are not constructing knowledge. The fourth thing will be the metacognition and self-regulation. The metacognition and self-regulations are the basis of all of these thinking methods. The metacognition is the awareness and control of one's thinking processes. The self-regulation refers to learners' drive by the motivation or use strategies to initiate and sustain focused, goal-directed activities while ignoring distractions or setbacks. A good course should guide students to improve their metacognitive ability to find what strategies they have used when solving problems, and teachers should help students learn to monitor their thinking, internalize the monitoring process, and make the monitoring process as part of their habitual mode of thinking. The fifth one under the curriculum implementation will be the application and transfer. Given that the instructional process is based on the specific course, contents, or activities, we would like to develop students' ability to draw inferences from one instance or apply what they have learned from courses to the problems in real life. Thus, a good course should involve the application and transfer component, which could not only facilitate students' transfer ability, but also help students gain self-efficacy when they have or when they will be able to be a successful, when they make a successful transfer, which in turn improves their motivation to apply what they have learned in other subjects. Teachers can implement in their design of specific activities to arouse and cultivate students' active thinking through these 6 steps as follows. First is the situation creation. This step is based on the first principle, stimulating interests and motivation. At the beginning of a course, the teacher should choose the contents that students are interested in order to create an interesting situation to attract students' attention. For example, in the course of a conversation between the virus and me, developed by Jiwa Hiping Primary School, teachers take the spreading of COVID-19 as the background to attract students' attention. The second will be the questioning. This step is based on the principle cognitive conflict and is meant to arouse students' deep thinking about the theme. For example, in biology lessons, to guide students to explore the structure and characteristics of the organism that causes COVID-19, the teacher should lead the students to ask questions about the topic, such as, is COVID-19 a form of life, or does it grow? The third one will be the independent inquiry. This step is based on the principle knowledge construction. This step could help students get involved in the cognitive construction process and improve the quality of the discussion. This process encourages students to relate their previous knowledge and experiences with the new questions and thus gain new insights into the new situation. The previous study found that a group can think more creatively if individual members think independently before group discussion. The fourth one will be the cooperation and communication. This step is also based on the principle knowledge construction, and it belongs to social construction. Teachers should set up discussion sessions to facilitate social construction. For example, during the pandemic, the teacher encouraged students to share the questions that they have in mind about the virus or the methods to protect themselves from the virus on the online chat platform. The fifth one will be the summary and reflection. This step is based on the principle self-regulation and metacognition. Here, the teacher should guide students to reflect on and summarizes the thinking methods, thinking strategies, the problem finding, the problem solving methods, and of course, from what they have learned from the activities. The sixth one will be the application and transfer. So in this step, it is based on the principle application and transfer itself. The teachers should guide students to actively use the strategies and methods they have learned in other domains. The transfer of knowledge truly indicates that cognitive representations are transformed into abilities and competencies. The current COVID-19 crisis has forced many countries to close schools, colleges, and universities to halt the spread of the virus, due to the long-lasting negative consequences that school closures would have on skill accumulation. Many of the education systems moved rapidly online on an unprecedented scale, since lockdowns may be introduced again in the future until effective vaccines or therapeutics become more efficient and accessible to everyone. It is of the utmost importance for the governments to reflect on the main difficulties that students, parents, teachers, and school principals have encountered in adapting to this phase of massive online learning and intervene better harness the potential of online learning. For example, they should first expand infrastructure, ensuring that nobody is excluded from online lessons, and support students and teachers to use online tools and technologies in an effective manner. So based on forthcoming analysis in the Skills Outlook 2021, it illustrates there that students' attitudes and dispositions to learning, such as ambition or motivation, are important drivers of their educational achievements, and it can help ensure that online learning is as effective as possible. In addition, this brief showed that families and teachers plays a crucial role in guiding children through the challenges of home learning. The parents themselves can provide emotional and learning support to their children, while teachers can act as mentors, encouraging active learning and motivation and checking that nobody falls behind. Such interventions can considerably contribute to making online learning more effective. Given the crucial role that families and teachers play in the context of school closures, governments can spur their effective engagement by, for example, expanding family leave opportunities and by strengthening school parents' communication. Ladies and gentlemen, speaking in front of you all is Mr. Llagas Raphael, a second-year student of Bachelor of Physical Education, batch 2021 to 2022. Thank you so much for listening, and God bless.